Vera,
Here.
Meadows,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Brillmeyer,
I'm here.
Tate, Frost,
Here.
and Norris present. We have a quorum. Okay. We have approval for the minutes of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, you left me out.
Oh, sorry, Richard.
Here.
I just talked to you. And Richard is present. Thank you. One note before we approve the minutes, make sure everybody turns their phones to silent, please. Thank you. All right, approval of minutes. I do have one comment to make. Did we not vote on the logo during that last meeting? Did we not have a board vote on that? We did, didn't we? Did I see it in here, or did I miss it? It's in the back?
It's on the minutes.
Should be in the minutes, though, shouldn't it?
I did see it.
Yeah. Just want to make sure it's for the record.
It's under.
We should be in the minutes also that we have a board vote for it. And I did not see that.
Here it is. It is in here for sure.
We got it for the presentation, but we don't have it for the board minutes because we had the board members vote on it, and I want to have that for the record. Correct?
I believe it was under old business, which may have caused some confusion, but yes, there was a unanimous vote.
Actually, there was two nay votes, and 7 ayes.
Well, your memory is obviously better than mine.
That's all right, John.
With it being under updates, not an action item in the new business.
Okay.
I think that's what the minute taken probably caused.
All right, just want to make it clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, it was two nays and 7 ayes. Okay? Thank you. All right, do we have a motion? Or any other comments?
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, financials. Ms. Jennifer.
Good morning. In front of you, you have the financial statements for the August expenditure report, the July and August revenue and reserve report, and the TDC monthly collection analysis, and the check register listing. The August bed tax totals were $2,325,550.45, which is 13.66% higher than last year at this time. We also have, it is $18,244,211.20 for the year at the end of August, which was a 7.9% increase from the year-to-date total for 2013. The revenues for last month were only about $41 million. They've increased at the end of August to $44,613,819. It's roughly a $3.288 million increase from where the revenues were at the end of July last month. Currently, as far as projected revenue for 2014 fiscal year, we're at 128.37%, so we're well above the target for the FY14 fiscal year anticipated revenue. Does anyone have any questions about the financials?
I do. What is the Dano group again?
I'm sorry?
The Dano group?
Are you on the new budget?
Check register.
You're on expense?
Check register.
On the expenses?
Check register?
Oh, the check register. Let's see if one.
Yeah.
One sec.
It's probably about 3/4 of the page down. It's $7,120.
I am not sure. I would have to check on that for you. Garbage bags.
Okay, great. And then the other, is that a double posting in regards to Valley Crest landscape maintenance? It looks like the same amount and about 7 days apart. So I don't know if that's a double posting or not.
I will check
It's on the
that.
second page, I'm sorry.
So 18, 22.
It's 850, yes, thank you, 815 and
Okay.
22.
I will have to check on that, but the Valley Crest amount is the same amount every month. So one may have gotten paid for July and then one for August. So I'll check on those.
And that's all the questions I have, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, are you going to address the waste management issue?
We have a meeting this afternoon. As you all know, we're well out of the scope of what we estimated for the utilities accounts. We did get a refund from Chelco. They were charging sales tax, so we got a 3-year reimbursement in the amount of $6,229. As far as waste management, that's probably our highest increase, and it's well above 30% of what we spent last year. In reviewing the invoices from the last 3 years, it appears that in 2013-14, they started charging 3 new different fees. One of them is a fuel fee, one of them is an environmental fee, and one of them is a regulatory recovery fee. All total, that's about 36% increase in fees. We have a meeting with them this afternoon at 1:30 to go over some of the discrepancies that we see in the billing.
Could you give us an idea, just remind us what it is we paid last year, what it is we're likely to be paying this year?
Last year, in 2013, it was just under $70,000. And for 2014, we're looking at in the $90,000 range, and we estimate it to be a little bit higher because in addition to the charges, the new fees and regulatory fees that they have a step increase for pickups on actual service each year. So I expect it to be a little bit higher for next year. You'll notice that in your budgets, we've budgeted over $200,000 for utilities for FY15, which is a huge increase from this year.
Go ahead.
Waste management, Jim, is that the same contract? Do y'all operate under the same contract that the county does?
Yes, ma'am, I
Waste
believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think we're getting ready to enter into negotiation with them on the whole package, so that may be something that we can take a look at.
Just when we're going through the bills, though, it strikes me that they have a set rate, and yet they add all of these, 3 different fees get attached to it. It seems very arbitrary on one side. There's been no negotiation about that. They just slap the fee on it. And then one is called a recovery fee. For the life of me, I don't know what a recovery fee is.
The environmental fee is 10%, the regulatory recovery is 3.6%, and according to their website, those are not related to any government tax fee recovery. It's just a business-imposed charges.
So in other words, we don't know what it is. It's just an arbitrary fee.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And the same thing with, they're imposing a gas tax at a time when gasoline prices are going down. A year ago, I could have understood that, but we were paying probably 50 cents less a gallon now than we were a year ago, and yet they impose a gas fee, a gas tax.
I looked at some of their competitors. All of the competitors do base their fuel recovery charge on the Department of Energy's daily rate of what gas is for that specific week. So that seems to be fairly routine across the board for that type of industry. The environmental fee and the regulatory recovery fee seem to be unique to waste management.
Okay. Any other questions?
When you do get a response from after your meeting today, I appreciate it. You would update us on where it stands.
Absolutely.
And then, as Commissioner
Yeah.
Miller said, if they're going to do negotiations, that would be useful to know as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Thank you.
If there's no more questions, can I get a motion to approve the financials?
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay. New business. Go ahead.
The next item on your agenda for new business is the updates to the FY15 budget, and that was just recently passed by the Board of County Commissioners. There were some changes to the budget from the last time you saw it to when it was passed before the Board of County Commissioners, and I wanted to explain some of those changes. I've made a slide that indicates what was approved by the TDC and what was approved by the Board of County Commissioners. The TDT clerk retainage, the way the statute reads, they are allowed to retain up to 3%. It doesn't necessarily mean that they get the whole 3%. In historic years, they've always taken the 3%. They are only allowed to keep whatever it is they use that was solely and directly related to the assessment and collection of TDT tax. Each year there has been an excess, and they distribute that excess back to the general fund of Walton County, which was sort of like paying the indirect administrative cost on the back end. We do use the county for some of their purchasing department, clerk finance, clerk MIS. This year they decided, the Office of OMB proposed an allocation, which is an upfront payment of those indirect services, and it included everything from purchasing to human resources to custodial facilities. There were a lot of things included. It totaled a little greater than $400,000 in indirect county costs. There were 2 line items that were included for custodial and facilities maintenance that the TDC does not use at all. So we were able to negotiate those fees off. All of the remaining fees, even though we were not in agreement with the allocation method, remained. So there is a $356,735 line item that was added. You see that on the right side of the slide up there, the 3rd line down. It's called indirect administrative cost allocation. So now, because the county will be basically paid for those indirect costs up front, we felt that it was important to reduce the clerk retainage. So what was 3% as approved by the TDC was approved by the BCC for $250,000. I don't believe that that's been entirely worked out, but that's what we budgeted. Additionally, in addition to the indirect administration costs, there were general property and liability insurance, which is new. The TDC has never been required to pay that by the county before, and that covers our automobile and facility insurance. The indirect administrative costs, as I mentioned, is new. We've never paid that before. It's $356,000. We're not going to be charged for that because we had a disagreement with the allocation methodology. The county has agreed to go out and get a company that specializes in allocation. The name of the company is Maximus. The allocation study, is going to cost $11,500, which the TDC has agreed to pay half of, and then it should be a fair and equitable allocation of the indirect administration fees.
Basically, the bottom line is that the bid tax dollars are paying whatever we have in the past and what this is approved, the difference. So it's been an increased expense, in other words.
It is an increased expense. Historically, with the clerk collecting 3%, they normally retained anywhere from $150,000 to $175,000. The remainder of that, which was usually about $225,000 to $275,000, was then relinquished to the county, and it offset any county expenses that they had for indirect services provided to the TDC.
So it needs to be back to the county, but not back to the TDC.
The retainage, yes.
The retainage.
Historically. That's why if the county is charging the indirect administration cost up front as a line item, we felt like it was necessary to reduce the clerk retainage, because if they do have a retainage, any excess of that will still be refunded to the county.
So is it, okay, interesting. So this amount that is significantly over and is being paid back to the county, it's basically not using the funds of the TDC the way the bylaws are written, which is for tourism, correct? Or beach nourishment, or whatever the 4 cents
I wouldn't be able to talk to how they use the money that's paid in excess because I don't have any information on
I know
that.
you don't know how, I apologize, and I'm not attacking you, I'm just saying that I find there's bylaws of how that tax dollar should be spent. So if someone had come in to audit the TDC, would they not raise that? Listen, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, and I can point that out right now. So if I'm doing an audit, I'd be scratching my head going, wait a minute, they've never paid this amount before. The county is getting the money back, whatever's over. Why would the TDC be getting that back?
I think there's a philosophical difference of opinion over who gets the money back right now. Right now, the way the statute reads, it has to be the government entity, and technically we're part of Walton County. So we're not, like, for example, Panama City Beach is its own entity. They're their own government agency. They have their own federal tax ID number. The TDC doesn't. We share all of those things with Walton County. So when the TDT is collected, it is returned to the same agency because we technically are Walton County. So
Can I add
You
something?
mentioned custodial, and TDC has its own legal, correct?
yes,
And the county has their own legal,
yes.
so there's no use to have two attorneys. Is there any way that we can do a line by line to see what the TDC has for administrative and what the county has? And to compare, okay, we don't need that, so there's no allocation of time spent or money.
And I believe that's what the Maximus group will end up doing. For example, when they, one of our discrepancies or disagreements with the allocation was the attorneys. There's 3 other agencies. When they did the allocation, there was the building department, the landfill, and the mosquito control, and the TDC that all are revenue generating parts of the county that had to have these fees allocated between them. In doing that, looking at that specifically, the county attorney line item, the landfill, mosquito control, and building department, none of them have their own attorney that attends meetings. They all refer to Mr. Davis. So in my calculation of the allocation methods, I felt like whatever we were assessed, we should deduct the cost of our attorney because we pay that. Now, there are people at the attorney's office that we do use. The county records management liaison, which is a statutorily required position for aid in public records requests, that kind of thing. Contract to ensure that all of the contracts of the TDC and the county are consistent in form. Those are the kind of things that we do use. So I believe that the Maximus Company will look at those things individually and determine what is the fair and appropriate allocation.
What did
Commissioner.
we pay last year?
Nothing. This is the first year that they've. We didn't.
Yeah.
So my calculator is, I don't need a calculator to add 356 minus 0,
Right.
okay?
Well, that technically, that's
Yeah.
not,
Let me.
we paid 300 and about 300,000, 250,000 because the overage was paid. So we paid in the back way, not in the front door, so.
Let me say one thing too about that. This level of detail has not come to the Board of County Commissioners. This has been, Jim and I went over it, and I think he's been working with the county admin on this, but this level of detail has not been presented to the Board of County Commissioners. I don't know if this level of detail, I imagine that it will be, but I'm with you in that there were a lot of items that they wanted the TDC to pay for that I think Jim is negotiating with them, but at some point this will come before the board. So it is kind of a, you've got this money, and it's been going back into the budget, and I didn't realize that. And I've been on the commission for 6 years. I did not realize that they were taking more than they were taking the 3%, and it was going back into the general budget. And I've studied the budget in detail, and I couldn't see that. So, yeah, I think it just went back in and disappeared into an account. I don't know, but I agree that this is something that we should look at.
Yeah, I mean, my whole reason for it is that already voted, we've already approved it, but like, you know, when we voted for the improvements on the Phillips Inlet side of the 30A. For that, I've seen the results of this year again, and I know I've harped on this last meeting and the CEO meeting, and everybody's getting nauseated about it, but we saw a decrease in the level of tourists this year, but we had the best year ever because the increase in rates overall, that's why there's more bed tax dollars, a little over 13% for August, and over the year it's like 7% year to date. But at some point, if we don't continue the focus of marketing in this area, we've already, you know, let the sun set on the half cent. I'm telling you, this is not going to be an effect that's going to happen now, maybe not even next year, but it's that kind of mentality of out of sight, out of mind.
Yes, sir.
And eventually, we're going to be scratching our heads, I don't know when, but we're going to be wondering, why are we down? Why is everybody else up around us, if they have 5%, whatever the case may be, and we're going to be scratching our heads here. You know, so I'm just a staunch believer, then I'll get off the soapbox, whether you pump gas or you sell groceries, you're impacted by the tourism that's down here, whether that's good or bad or indifferent. So we keep finding ways of plucking a little bit away from this big gold pot. And mind you, there's not one local resident here that has to pay that bed tax dollar. Those are from people that are coming to enjoy our area. So, I mean, it's kind of frightening. So,
Gary, some good points. We'll let Jennifer and Jim get back with us on what the discussion is, and Maximus, I guess, is going to do some research on it. Let's see what they come up with. And the indirect in the back end, kind of, it is a little confusing, I guess, and more clarity, and I know that's what you are trying to find out too, along with the county commissioners. So anyway, thanks for bringing that up.
Clarify one point though. I'm sure I'm not the only one here that's confused by the shuffling around. It's a little bit of who's on first and what's on second here. But as best you can, would you give us a sense of what the difference would be last year versus what it would be under the proposed system? All in. I mean, I'm not talking about
all in. If the clerk continues to be allowed to keep 3%, and if the county gets the whole $356,000, then you're looking at $862,000 of cost outside of the TDC organization itself.
Versus
last year,
It'd be $356,000.
$356,000 increase.
that's what. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jennifer.
Sorry.
Please go ahead.
The other, since we were on the FY15 budget updates, just so you'll be aware, they did, at the county commission level, they did approve the addition of one code enforcement officer position. So the personnel line items were increased from the last time you saw the budget, and also the personnel line items were increased to reflect the countywide COLA that was approved. And also in product development, to accommodate that new code enforcement officer, there was a purchase of a new vehicle for that person to get around. Interest revenue was increased because we projected more interest revenue based on the amount that we have in reserves. And an additional line item that was added to the budget but not included in the county approval was a line item for $250,000 for air carrier recruitment contingency. That was supposed to be a balance brought forward from the emerging market, which has disappeared as of September 30th. We'll have to go to the BCC for a budget amendment to bring that forward and make our budget whole.
Okay.
So.
And Mr. Chairman, if I can just interject on to Mr. Brillmeyer's point, I do want to touch base. The indirect administrative cost, the way in which it is imposed, I think that's the question. And for the TDC and certainly for the board, that is the question. I do want you to understand you'd ask the question, well, aren't we required to spend TDC dollars in a certain way? And yes, we are by statute. Indirect administrative costs performed by the county on behalf of us as a tourism promotion agency are expressly authorized by statute. The rub, I think, as you've heard them say, and I want to clarify, is not that we're saying that it could not happen, but that it needs to be what they actually performed. It can't just be a pro rata distribution of, well, this person has 4 agencies and the TDC should pay 25%. We may well use more than that. We may use less than that. We need something because that is our concern on the audit. And then, as they noted, the philosophical difference of what should happen in terms of the retainage of any excess of that 3% is a separate issue altogether. But as to your question, is the money being properly spent or not? The statute does allow it. Now, I think we all would like to see a little bit more justification of how they're going to do it going forward. But as of now, there's nothing to say that they absolutely are not following what is in the statute. We just may need to fine tune the metric a little bit more. So I don't want that to be an impression anybody on the council leaves with is, well, there's money that's being spent by the county that is TDT dollars or that has been spent that is inappropriate. There's nothing to indicate that has happened. What we're trying to make sure is that's something we can get a proper grasp on going forward. And I know that's something that Ms. Meadows and her board will look at. It's something we've talked to Mr. Davis and the clerk about as well on their level.
Well, you're far more articulate than I am, and that's what I meant to say.
Well, I just want to make sure, because that is always a question of, well, hey, can you buy paper clips with TDT dollars? We've had those arguments about how much office supplies can be purchased, and the statute has some broad categories, but I want everybody to understand that. So if that question comes up later, well, hey, how can you pay for janitorial services? Shouldn't that be beach maintenance? The statute does allow for some of those. It's just how do you account for them?
Okay, thank you, Clay.
And thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Apparently I was just getting a little heated because it's surprising. I know you're not the one that's
You're fine.
scribbling, so thanks.
Okay,
That was just an information item, but if any of you have any questions about the FY15 budget, be happy to answer them. I have the next agenda item too, so I think we can move on. That one didn't require any action. The next agenda item is to have the board, it's a request for the TDC board to approve the contingency reserve fund plan. I believe that Christina gave you all a revised plan just before the meeting started. It was altered a little bit after some input from Commissioner Emfield regarding what was covered by county insurance, and this was the first year that we were charged, as I mentioned back at the FY15 budget updates, for property insurance. So we've adjusted it significantly, and ultimately with the media blitz, continued operation expenses, and what we feel the TDC would have to pay as a share of the replacement for all capital items is roughly $9.5 million. Right now, that is 56% of the projected revenue for FY15. So what we estimate is that because the personnel costs, the equipment and everything increases gradually each year, that the contingency reserve plans stay at 56% for all future years.
so instead of 56, we're doing 65, we're going to move to 56.
Right. We found out that certain of our facilities were covered under county insurance. FEMA only reimburses for what's not covered by county insurance, so we reduced that down quite a bit.
Okay, good, good. Okay, I guess you need any
Motion
questions?
to
Any other
recommend.
questions on this? All right, do we have a recommendation to approve? Okay, and we have a second.
I'll second that.
Jennifer seconds, all in favor say aye. Those opposed, like sign.
I'm so sorry.
Oh,
I just want to clarify. So if we approve this year, we will be, we will be accountable or
You
indirectly.
gotta turn on your mic.
I have to, but We will be doing the indirect administrative.
No, I'm sorry, we've moved on to the contingency
we're on-
reserve
We're on
plan.
contingency right now.
It's just, yeah, no, the contingency reserve plan is just to retain enough money in reserves to cover our share of what we need to in a catastrophic
So
event.
we got it then. It won't be too late, but we have to pay this year.
No.
It's still in my mind, I'm sorry.
It's all right. You can let that one go. We're gonna, just in case Mother Nature creates something for us, we have a contingency fund. So you're all good about that now. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good morning, council members. I'm Brian
Morning, Brian.
Kellenberger.
Good morning.
Our business today is Legion Park Boat Ramp. In your books, you'll find a copy of the contract that's been reviewed by legal, a bid form from RBM Contracting, the low bidder, and a bid tab. The Legion Park Boat Ramp is removal and replacement of the old boat ramp at Legion Park in Miramar Beach. We had two bids, RBM at $57,573, who was the low bid. Next guy was H.C. Harder's at $91,620. So the action we're looking for today is recommendation to take it to the BCC to award the contract and approve the contract to RBM Contracting.
Brian, what was the second bid you said?
Second bid was $91,620.
So you said 900,000.
No, 91,000.
What was different? I mean, that's a substantial difference right there. Just for.
This
No.
project was, it came out a little different. We had 8 contractors that showed up for the pre-bid meeting. Only 2 turned in bids. I don't know what the big difference was, except that maybe H.C. Harder's felt that they were going to be the only bidder, so they bumped theirs up. We have reviewed the bid, discussed it with RBM. He has everything, and confident that he can do it in the schedule and for the price he is.
And you feel comfortable with that price as far as?
Yes,
you know,
sir.
getting all we need to get done?
Don't anticipate any change orders. Project plans are complete. Project's not very hard. It's a what's called a push slab boat ramp. Take out the old one, cast new ones on ground, push them into the water. A little bit of concrete sidewalk work to be done, and some grading of the gravel parking lot. So,
Brian, do we have to get a DEP permit for this?
we have DEP and the Corps of Engineers permit in hand.
We do? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Any other questions?
I make a motion to accept it.
Got a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. For the record, Pamela Watkins. Under New Business, tab 5, this is on the North Walton Events Sponsorship Grants. We had 3 entities apply for that. One withdrew. So we have the Florida Chautauqua Assembly and the Marvel of Flight. And together, those total $20,000. So I am looking for a request for approval for the North Walton Event Sponsorship Grant in the amount of $20,000.
Okay. Got a motion, second?
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
No discussion?
Any discussion?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, both of these are repeat events, are they not?
Yes, they've been probably, the Chautauqua several years, Marvel of Flight about 4.
Okay. Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign.
Okay,
Motion carries.
thank you. Tab 6, this is on the South Walton FY16 sponsorship changes. If you look in that application on page, I believe it's page 6 through 8, we've made some substantial changes. This will allow for more qualitative than quantitative measures when determining the amount awarded to each sponsorship recipient. It's very detailed, as you can see.
Yeah, I think y'all did it.
So we're doing this on a, it's by points now and more so than it is.
It's a point
By
system.
just, by being an event.
being what you think that should be scored as.
Yeah, right,
Yeah. This is more black and white,
right.
no gray area. Each of these have a point system that go with them,
So
so.
you're eliminating the gray areas, what you're
Yeah,
saying. Gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, I like the fact that you have, the months, and they get different points for different months, and then how long they've been funded. So I think it's very thorough, so I think it's good.
Very well done. Yeah,
Can I get a motion to approve that?
yeah, that's good. Takes a little heat off of you too, doesn't it? All right, do we have any other questions? Any other discussion?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Okay, we got a motion, second.
Second.
All in
Okay.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Those opposed, like sign, and motion carries.
Okay, and I just want to make one note. We had two people on that committee resign, Claire Bannerman and Aaron Stranko. We've replaced them with Alan Roberts of Sunshine Shuttle and Sarah Hammond with Amavita Coffee. She's an outreach coordinator. So those have been replaced. And also on the North Walton, Commissioner Commander had appointed Gus Andrews to that committee, and he has since resigned, and she has replaced Robert Nelson.
Nelson,
Just
okay.
wanted you,
Who did you say resigned from the events committee?
Claire Bannerman and Aaron Stranko.
Okay.
And straight.
Thanks.
Just wanted to note that.
All right. Well,
Okay.
we'll thank the new volunteers for the committees for us,
Okay.
would you please?
I will do that.
Thank you. Mr. Bagby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item that I have is the request to approve the RFQ for the design charrette so we can go forward. Commissioner Meadows was our sponsor before the BCC, and they approved us going forward, so this is the RFQ that we would put out. The difference between this and the 1994 design charrette that we talked about last time, and I think showed you the booklet that they put out, this will not have anything to do with land development codes or anything like this. This is about getting a consistency of look and feel throughout the destination, more what we're responsible for as opposed to the planning department's responsible for. So we'd ask that you approve this to go forward to the BCC.
Jim, when do you think, what's the time frame on all of this? What's the time schedule on all the?
We hope to bring this to the BCC on October 28th, and then we hope to issue it within 2 weeks after that. We're looking toward the first of the year to actually hold the design charrette, the first of the calendar year, to hold the design charrette and integrate this into our strategic planning, get both of those done prior to about 1 March when we go into our budget cycle, so that we can say we need to spend X amount of reserves on signage or X amount of reserves on bike path or landscaping or what, the improvements that come out of this design charrette.
Is this specifically for the 38 quarter, or?
No, this is for the taxing district, so this would be all of South Walton.
Okay.
So if they approve a family of signs, we would deploy or pay for improvements in that family of signs throughout the taxing district. It's not just a 30A issue.
We have the design review board also that does the same criteria with architectural, landscape, and et cetera. Are you going to work together with them?
They'll be invited to attend the charrette. The South Walton Community Council will be invited. We'll bring in all the stakeholders for the charrette.
Okay, because you have a chapter 13 that's already involves a lot of requirements that businesses have to do before.
Well, but we're
This will
not.
be public.
Yeah.
It's public.
This is the public space, so this isn't the private space.
Okay, gotcha.
This is public signage, this is landscaping in the right-of-way, in the public right-of-way. This has nothing to do with how many balloons you have outside your business or how many sign, I don't even want to get into that
Just want to make it clear for everybody, okay?
Yeah.
So they know.
Line effect,
so
yeah, your
they-
signage. and-
There you go.
Motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion. We got a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Our second item, or under my name, is as y'all are well aware, we had a management review last year done by the Institute of Senior Professionals, and Mr. Miller was part of the group that looked at us. One of their recommendations, which has been on our top 25 that we've been tracking for over a year now, or about a year now, is on page 22, and it involved looking at outsourcing our maintenance, our beach maintenance function, specifically trash collection and things like that. I looked at it this summer, did a cursory review, and will tell you that I was, my recommendation is heavily weighted by the fact that our two neighbors who do use some outsourced maintenance made the TV and the newspapers for the lack of trash pickup. This may cost us incrementally a little bit more, but I think we get what we pay for in this case. The service levels we get, the attention to our beaches, and we were the only ones in this area that didn't have negative articles over the July 4th weekend. So we're going to ask that you approve removal of that from the 25 working issues, because I think what we have is, it's not that we will never revisit this. We'll probably revisit it again, but right now I think there are enough things that need fixing in our attention, and this is not one of those that is in the top 25.
Okay, go ahead, Art. Since you-
Yeah, let me comment on it because I was involved, as you said, in doing this. I'm going to ask you to take this off the table for three reasons. One, I don't think, and I happen to agree with you, by the way, about the issue itself. So my comments have more to do with the form rather than the substance. I totally agree. You should be doing what you're doing right now in terms of trash pickup. But one, I don't think it's appropriate to take something out of a report that you did not write, or we did not write here in the TDC. If you got a report from Carr Riggs, you certainly wouldn't consider taking something out of it. So it's an outside group that made the report, and I think out of courtesy, they're the only ones that could remove it. Secondly, there's nothing in this report that is mandatory. It was simply a group of suggestions. And there's no obligation for you or anybody in the TDC to follow what was in this report. And thirdly, you've actually fulfilled what the report said. That is, you were asked to consider, and you did consider it. So end of subject. So right. I think it's a stochastic effort.
And I apologize because I just read the recommended motion. We're not asking to take it out of the report. That's my mistake. Yeah. We're asking to take it off the 25 working issues that we brief y'all on every month, because but it is not a priority for this organization right now. But I want to make sure that I have your approval that it's not a priority for this organization.
But Jim, the third point I made, that is that you consider it. The only thing you'd have to do to move on is to say we considered it, we decided not to do it. End of subject. So I don't see the need to ask approval to take it out.
Well, we had approval of the study, and we had review, and so I want to make sure that anything that we say, we looked at it, we did it, that we have buy-in from the council. That's all I'm asking for.
Well, as a member of this organization, I think you've fulfilled what the report suggested. That is, you looked at it. Okay. End of subject. Move on.
Okay. All right.
And the recommended motion should read: I move to remove the outsourced cost benefit analysis from the top 25 working issues, not from the management plan. Because he's right. The management plan is published and adopted, or accepted, not adopted.
So moved.
From the 25 working issues. Okay. All right, is there any other questions? Oh, you made a motion. Cindy made a motion. Commissioner made a motion. We have a second?
Second.
Pam, second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign.
Opposed.
Opposed.
Two opposed. Miller and Richard. Motion carries. Thank you.
Good morning, Council. I'm Lauren Wilson from Center Communications, here to give an update of the major highlights from the past 2 months. Starting with co-op leads and results, these are our results from the past fiscal year in total. We are up almost 25% in print media leads for South Walton to date this year, so we're very happy with that performance. Also, partner online results have succeeded to outperform what we promised those partners. Sweeps, we've had over 90,000 entries. We just saw the results from September. We exceeded over 100,000 entries for the year, which is way more than we did last fiscal year. For our brand interactive performance, we launched our new creative in July. This new creative is outperforming our old creative significantly, so we're very happy with that as well. And then we surpassed $1 million in added value. So we're very happy with that. For emerging markets, we launched a media plan in September. This was a media blitz in 6 different markets, and over TV, banner, airport Wi-Fi takeovers, and in an airport outdoor takeover as well. We're working with Kern Downs to do an ad effectiveness research study on this effort specifically. If you go to the next slide, you'll see this is what the airport Wi-Fi takeover looks like. Basically, people were rewarded with Wi-Fi after watching our TV spot. This gave more views to our TV as well as targeting travelers. And then in Dallas, we took over a parking lot and a sky bridge, so you really couldn't even enter Dallas Love Field Airport without seeing South Walton. We've renewed this for the spring because of the new flight, the direct flight from Dallas Love Field to Panama City Beach. This will be live February and March, and we'll add new creative to this. And then next week, we're heading to Dallas to do an activation at the Cattle Barons Ball. This is the largest single-day fundraiser for the American Cancer Society. A very fluent audience. Tickets are $2,500 a couple. Kenny Chesney's performing, so we are the silent auction sponsor, and we are have a lot planned to tastefully engage the audience there. So we're excited about that. And then this winter in Chicago, through an opportunity with Visit Florida, we are taking over trains on the Brown Line. This is through January 12th through March 22nd, so it's a complete takeover of the interior of the train with our destination. We're really excited about that as well.
Where does the Brown Line go?
It goes out into some more affluent suburbs. It's, if you look at the L schedule in Chicago, it's basically the most affluent suburbs, but it also goes downtown into the main loop. I can get you the exact stops if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Okay. For creative, we've spent a lot of time over the past 2 months finalizing the logo. After the approval by the BCC, we finalized colors, orientations, the destination versus the organization. And then we are in the process of doing beta testing with merchandise, which John will show you, but we are also rolling this out in paid media, online, via social channels. We're starting this really mid-October with the intent to have everything rolled out, or most of the major things rolled out by the end of the year. Also working on the visitor guide and map for 2015. This is a preview of the map. This is at the printer currently, and the visitor guide, we should have a draft of it early next week. We're internally proofing it right now. So we are scheduled to deliver that in late December for January 15th, or January fulfillment. And the last thing is we worked with the group and sales team to produce a meetings video. This is not necessarily to showcase all the strict conference capabilities, but why South Walton is a great destination for having a meeting and unlike anywhere else. So I think we can play that, or no. Well, it's on YouTube as well, on our Visit Talent YouTube channel.
That's a good story.
And then for social, we finalized our 2014-15 Beach Mama. This is our content plan for the year. This guides website content, social, and communications. And we feel it's very strong, very visually oriented. We're targeting some different audiences at different times of their decision-making process.
Jennifer, let me ask you about the meeting issue, or the whole issue of going after meetings, because that's an area I think where we can make a lot of improvement. Getting groups down here, particularly in the shoulder seasons. So what's the strategy for using this kind of a video and anything else that would relate to getting meetings here in South Walton?
I would really have to defer to Pamela on that, as that's her team's, do you want to speak to that? Sure.
This video will be used out of market when we go to meeting shows, when we sponsor a luncheon. We can play that, to a full crowd of meeting planners. It can also be used by the salespeople at all the meeting facilities. It's not competitive. It shows the destination as a whole. It can be used by meeting planners themselves when they are presenting to their boss or to their board on why South Walton would be a great place to have a meeting. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and do you talk about any specific venues at all in the film?
We don't talk about venues. We show venues, the exteriors, and it's to music. But it's trying to capture their attention on why South Walton would be a great beach destination to have your meeting.
Pamela, do we have, along that line, what kind of meeting, I know we have some facilities, and I know, but do you think we have a shortage of meeting facilities, or do you think we have enough meeting facilities, or do you think, I mean, does anyone ever comment, well, there's not a convention center, we couldn't come there, it's
They
not
do.
big enough? They do?
They do, and when it's very, very large, you know,
Yeah.
they do look at Fort Walton. Sandestin is our largest meeting facility, Hilton next, and Hilton's getting ready, right now, as we speak,
Expanding? Okay.
they're adding 7,500 square feet to their meeting space, which will allow them to gain some
Yeah.
larger groups, but we can always use more meeting space.
See, that's what I think. I think our meeting space is small, is not large enough, and that's why we can't get these large groups in here. Is there's no place for them to meet.
Most,
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was done. I was done. Go ahead.
And again, you can go on TripAdvisor. We have actually had several TripAdvisor comments that have made the comment, man, I was down here for a meeting, but I'm coming back. You know, so disappointing, stuck in the meeting. So you get these people that their time's allocated and they're frustrated, but they're coming back because they can just, you know, they're walking by a window looking at the beautiful Gulf or whatever. So I'm telling you, granted meetings only benefits a few people for business, it brings those guests back.
Right, and we don't know that ROI on that conversion, but we know it's there. When they are in market, we give them our visitor guide so that they can plan to come here on vacation. Total, we have 125,000 square feet in all of our meeting facilities, and as I said, Sandestin's the largest. It has 65. Gary has 35, and you're going to do 75 more. 7,500.
I always get an argument with my sales team, and I know there's somebody in the audience that's with them, Megan, but, you know, we also have 20,000 square feet of deck space.
Oh,
can't
I promote
tell.
that deck big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this video, and I really encourage you to go to YouTube. I'm disappointed that we.
I think we can.
Oh, okay. Because you'll see the exteriors, and you'll see a great shot of your deck. Did that answer your question?
Thank you, Pam.
one thing organically, it is posted on YouTube. We have copy written for search engine optimization purposes and it tags. So if someone was just Googling Florida destinations, the YouTube video would pop up after organic rankings are taken into effect. So going back to Beach Mama, that is complete. We've been implementing against that, and October content is already completed. Facebook, we hit a huge milestone in August with hitting 100,000 followers. We're very excited about that. To date, I think we're at 113. The exciting point to make, despite the tremendous growth in Facebook, 20% of that is purely organic. I mean, we've paid for 80% of the growth, but it shows that paid and organic together really result in a lot of growth and engagement. We continue to outperform most of our peer set as far as page performance. And then we also did another social video for the holidays. Oh, go.
On the page performance, just to clarify, that's the website?
No, I'm sorry. That is Facebook page performance. So that is an algorithm of organic growth and engagement. So it measures how many people are commenting on things, how many people are liking things on Facebook, how many, your growth.
And we're number 2, 1?
In our comp set, yeah.
What's number 1?
Hilton Head is...
they've been around forever.
Yeah, they've been around forever, and they have a really good level of engagement. Sometimes you're punished by rapid growth. So we've seen a little bit of falling, but we've seen that almost amongst everyone, their ranking has gone down. So, we just try and stay ahead of the curve.
Do we have a goal kind of on the Facebook side, or is it just kind of arbitrary? In other words, do we shoot for 200,000 for the year for Facebook? Or, what do we
for Facebook
measure?
for this past fiscal year? Our official goal was 40,000 followers, and our aspirational goal was 100. So that was what we were shooting for by the end of September. And then next year, I would say another 100,000. But I would really need to talk to my media team on that.
So how do these celebrities get a million or 2 million or whatever? I'm just trying to...
Unfortunately,
Celebrity
they have a little bit more name recognition than South Walton.
They do things probably we can't do, so I won't say that. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thanks. And then the last thing I wanted to say about the holiday video, this is also live. We'll begin promoting this late this month and through November and the holidays. But we did completely reorganize our YouTube page. We got rid of some old videos, reorganized things into playlists. The real purpose of this is we're going to be promoting a lot of these videos more heavily this year because we feel like they're very high quality, show the lifestyle of South Walton, and we want more eyes on them. So that's all I had. Does anyone have any other questions?
Very good. Thank you, Jen. Lauren.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Going to give you all a quick presentation. It's a preview of what we'll give tonight at our public workshop. Just as a quick update, we had our Beach Management Committee meeting yesterday. It went very well, had a lot of lively discussion at the end. We're going to take that back. And then second, we're going to have our workshop tonight, as we always do. But I wanted to give you all a quick preview on the presentation that we'll be showing. Fly through it pretty quick because I know we have limited time. But also to give you a quick update and let you know that we are putting together, now that we're moving past the construction easement phase, or we hope to be moving past that short, we are being asked to do community meetings. Jim's already done a couple. I'm going to be doing one coming up in a couple of weeks. And we've got more that are coming on board. And through support and guidance and requests of some of you that sit on the TDC, we've taken this back and we're going to be working with our marketing team and some of our other consultants to put together to make sure that we're putting the best message out. For those of you who were involved in 2006 project, 2006-07, we did the same thing then. Once we got to this phase, it was time to make sure that we had the appropriate materials going out to the owners. We've got a meeting scheduled this afternoon with our team. And so the information I'm showing you now is the typical standard Brad information. I'll make it as lively as possible, but we're going to have a lot different perspective going forward, but I think it's very exciting. So with that, just a quick update, moving on onto the presentation. Second slide. We'll give them a quick history of the project, what it's going to look like, the status, the next steps to prepare for construction. As I mentioned, the construction easements, that's been the focus of 10 months. And I do say that not begrudgingly, but tiringly. 10 months of work. And the last step of that was to have a public workshop. The county commission held a public workshop on September 3rd where more comments were made. There were no changes made to the easement. And so we have an easement that, as I said, was going to go before the county commission. It'll be going on October 28th. For those of you who don't know, the location of the meetings this month have been switched. And whenever big issues for South Walton happen, Jim's guidance has always been do them in South Walton. So that's the reason why that easement will be taken on the 28th for final approval. And so the presentation tonight and moving forward, we'll talk about easements, but it's really what are we doing? You know, why do we need to do this project? Why is it important? Let's talk a little bit more about that. So let's talk about the history. Right now you're seeing words. Going forward, you're going to see pictures. The reality of the situation is we lose houses. We lose property. People lose money when we don't restore and maintain our beaches. When I put up a slide and talk about it yesterday, I bored myself talking about impacts from Opal, impacts from Georges. The reality is it's not just from the big ones. If you look at Tropical Storm Isidore in 2001, that's the whole reason we started a federal feasibility study. A tropical storm. We lost over 20 cubic yards of sand per foot of beach. This is real. It's happening now, and we're not protected. So, next slide. So what did we do? We went out and looked at our beaches after the hurricane. We are very fortunate. Most of our beaches are fairly stable over the long-term period, but storms cause a tremendous amount of damage. And so we did look at that, and we'll continue to look at that and use that as a measuring tool to see what do we need to do moving forward. And when we did, we have to prioritize things. And you'll see up there on this slide the areas that were prioritized. Blue Mountain, all the top hits. Blue Mountain, as we know, they lost houses, they have seawalls. Beach Highlands and Dune Island, they lost houses, they built seawalls. Seacrest to Inlet Beach, Santa Rosa Beach, Seaside to Deer Lake State Park, Gulf Trace, and Water Sound. And I do want to hit on the seawall issue real quick because it's one that becomes more and more prevalent that I think we need to address. We haven't really in the past. Seawalls will provide some level of upland protection. My background, coastal science and engineering. I didn't design these seawalls. I don't know who designed them. Some will perform better than others. I wouldn't bet all my life behind them. But it's not just them. Think about their neighbors. If you're in between two seawalls, you will have increased damages because of the seawalls beside you. It's not a guess. That was my master's thesis. I am an expert on that topic. We've got a lot of problems here that we have to deal with. And so a lot of these areas that think that they have seawalls and they're going to be okay, it's not just them. It's adjacent properties, and there's going to be damages that are going to occur after a storm if we don't step ahead and do the right thing. Next slide. Real quick, we did go ahead and we did the project in 2006 and 2007. As we know, Miramar Beach was a nightmare, needed to be done. Thanks to Megan, staying at the Hilton this time. Got me a great rate. I do appreciate that. I usually stay with friends when I'm here, but they're out of town. And I was able to sit last night on a balcony looking out at a project that is extremely successful. They have as much sand today on the dry beach as they did after they finished the project. Matt Tremble, who's in the audience, who works for Taylor Engineering and does all of our monitoring, has figured out that as far as the dry beach, what a lot of people think of the beach, we do have as much or more sand right now today than when it was built in 2007. When you look across the area all the way into the water, we estimate still that approximately 80% of all the sand that was placed on the beach and in the water is still can be found today, 7 years after that project. And that's a tremendous amount. So we have a great dry beach, which is going to provide that hurricane storm damage reduction, and we still have a lot in the project. But the big thing is, what are we going to do? As we always talk about, we do have beach nourishment funding set aside. It's been set aside for a long time, going back to 99, for these projects. It's not taking money away from marketing or other things that the TDC needs to be doing, and it's also not taking money away from the general coffers of Walton County through ad valorem taxes, and there's no special taxing district. So this is a project being completely funded by beach nourishment funding for beach nourishment. I think that's really important to let people know. We had to borrow money in the past. We know we're going to have to borrow money in the future, but we'll pay off those loans. And as you can see, the 2007 project where we borrowed the money is getting ready to be paid off. So we're in a great financial position to move this project forward. So why do a federal project? Here's the real key points. First off, it's not a one-time project. A huge misconception on this is it's a one-time project. Why do you need a construction easement for 50 years? All these issues that follow up behind it's a one-time project. It's not. It's a 50-year project. And current estimates based on what's going on with our climate and the fact that we get hit by a hurricane every 10 years. If you do the math on it, we've been fortunate so far, but roughly every 10 years, that we're going to do a project, and then we're going to have to go back in and restore it up to 4 more times. But there's no limit on that. If we have to restore it 5 times or 6 times, we'll have a federal partner at the table. And that's something that you can't get past, because in that hurricane recovery, I had the pleasure, joy of working with Dave, Sel, and a lot of the rest of the team going through the hurricane recovery. And when you rely on FEMA, they are there to help, and they do help. But I would much rather have our county in a position where the Corps of Engineers is advocating on our behalf to get federal dollars just like they did in Sandy. And if people say beach nourishment doesn't work, it doesn't prevent storm damage, why in Hurricane Sandy, if you look at community after community, communities that had wide beaches and high dunes, protected. Communities that had nothing, obliterated. They see the value in it. We're spending billions of dollars up there. We want them to be able to advocate on our behalf and get money back in our coffers to be able to restore these beaches after hurricanes. So they're going to be a great partner. And quite frankly, it's expensive. We're looking at up to $100 million over the next 50 years, $2 million annually. We can cover a lot of that in what we're doing, but if those numbers go up, there's problems. We've got $60 million right off the bat where we're going to be paying over $35 million of it, over half of it. So we want to have a federal partner at the plate. Next slide. So real quickly, they did look at the beaches. They wanted to see what to do. We realized that you can't buy all the property. We don't have $4 billion. I wouldn't, if I had $3.5 billion, I still wouldn't buy all the property. So we had to look at our beach areas and what we're going to restore. And they picked out the 5 areas we're going to restore on the next slide. And it shows that what we're going to be doing on the beaches. We're going to be building dunes, raising the beach, and extending the beach into the water. This hurricane storm damage reduction project needs to protect upland properties. It's what it's being designed for, and those 3 pieces of the puzzle are integral. And we'll be doing that across the board. So real quick, how do we get this done? Well, we're going to need to get it done by putting a lot of sand on the beach. We estimate over the 50-year life it's going to be close to 10 million cubic yards. We found that sand. Spent close to $1 million looking for that sand. It's high-quality sand. There's not issues with it. It's the same sand used in East Pass, off of the beaches in West Destin near East Pass. So just go out and look at it if you have any questions. It's good-looking sand. And then we'll continue to move through the design. The Mobile District, just today I got an email. They have replied to the state's request for additional information. As you know, when you submit a permit to the state, you submit it, you get questions back, you answer those questions. There have been some modifications. I'll be going over those and have been hearing about them. Nothing big. You know, it's a different slope on the front part of the beach, so maybe a little bit wider beach, a little bit wider dune, to try to offer a little bit more protection, and we'll make sure and get that information out to the public. But we've got to get our easements done. We'll take it to the county commission, as I said, October 28th, get their approval. Once we have that approval, the Corps of Engineers is working to identify all the property owners, getting all the backup information we need to request construction easements. Those are the documents that give us permission to build the beach. So we'll be moving through that. The final issues of concern, and you can read these, I won't read them to you, we have resolved, or to our best of our ability, has to get into the public having the right to use the beach, whether or not they will own their property, which they will. The property values will go down, which we have not seen in any other federal beach project, or any other beach project, including our own in Western Walton County. Rebuilding walkovers will be an issue. We're building a substantial dune system, and we are not requiring, the county won't require people to rebuild a walkover, but we are encouraging, build out over that new dune. It's the whole reason it's there. You lost a ton of sand in these storms, and we're trying to put it back. Commercial vending, been in place for a long time. Unless you are the owner of the property or you're the upland owner giving permission, you're not going to get permission to give to vend on that beach. That's not changing. That's nothing the county commission has any inclination to want vending all over the place. The erosion control line is an issue that goes on forever. It's a state requirement. Nothing we can do there. When we put sand in state waters, it's state sand. We've got an erosion control line already in Western Walton County, and there's nothing negative that's popped out of the sand over there. There's not critters or people that pop out of the sand. If you can't get to the beach, it's not going to make a difference. There's no perpendicular access being included as part of this project, no build accesses. So it's the people that you deal with now. So if it's crowded at 100 feet and you get 150 feet, it won't be as crowded. The final 2 issues about destroying vegetation and the sand quality. I touched on the sand quality. These are the 2 environmental issues. Go see it, touch it, feel it. We're going to have bags of the material to show people. But as far as the vegetation, we are going to be putting sand up along where the existing dunes are, so there is going to be some impacts. We're going to be going behind that and planting a ton of native vegetation, not just sea oats, not just a monoculture, but different types of plants that are native to the dunes so that it will get in and hold the sand in place. So we think we've addressed a lot of the issues. We always continue to update the information. Working with John, he's extremely huge help in getting the information on the website. We do the monthly updates and recordings, and it's really a whole team. I get to be the mouthpiece, but it's a whole team, and the TDC works really hard to get this done.
Brad, will you go back to the previous slide, please, or the one that had the first few points?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. From what I'm hearing, and perhaps I'm wrong, but I'm hearing a lot of people that own beachfront property are really concerned that whatever sand you add from whatever they own now forward to wherever the new control line is will not be their property, and vending can be a major issue. Is that correct?
Issue number one is yes. Let me, if I can break that into two. Issue number one is yes. All sand placed in state waters, based on state constitution, state statute, is state property. You can't fill in state waters and then claim it for your own right. Whether it was a beach restoration project that we're doing, whether it was a homeowner's project, whether Kurt and I got together and wanted to build a beach, still when we put sand in state waters, it's going to be state sand. So that's one issue. As far as vending, the county has an ordinance. It went in place in the mid-2000s, I can't remember the date off the top of my head, that addressed specifically vending. Because Western Walton County, this was an issue. It was actually an issue between the properties in the Sandestin community. Everybody wanted to make sure that the Hilton was able to still put their chairs out on the beach in front of the Hilton. The resort was able to put their chairs out in front of the resort, and Topsail Resort did their area, and nobody crossed into other people's areas. That's been in place since before that project. It's very well organized. Another code enforcement officer, you'll have no more people to watch it. But that hasn't seemed to be a huge problem over there. It's been in place now. The erosion control line's been in Western Walton County since 2003. Project finished in 2007. But yes, I can't speak for the county commission except to say I've heard nobody saying they want to change the vending laws to allow Brad Pickle vending service up and down that area.
Art, I think your specific question, though, was between their beach up to the erosion control line. That will be their property. So if it's wet sand right now, or it may be out in the water, the erosion control line is analogous to the mean high water line. So wherever that physically is now is where their property line will be. And this is one of the interesting things I don't understand about people in Western Walton County. You already have an erosion control line. Your property line is already fixed. Everybody from Topsail to the Okaloosa County line. And I'm amazed at the number of condo owners or condo presidents or homeowner association presidents go, you're not going to put any public beach out in front of our beach. Well, that's a good statement 10 years ago, but there is a public beach out in front of your beach right now, today. It exists, and it has existed since that erosion control line was established in 2006. We don't advertise it. We don't publicize it. We won't advertise or publicize the new one. That's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to bring folks here.
The one other thing I would add is if you read in the state statute, there is a section that says very clearly that the state nor the local governments involved in these projects can do anything seaward on that new constructed beach that is injurious to the upland landowner. So there is a legal protection in there, even on the new public beach that's built, that you can't go out and do anything that's injurious to the upland landowner. So it's not just a county protection.
My understanding, I have not been to some of these meetings, but my understanding is a lot of people that have beachfront property are saying that, in effect, what they now have as beachfront, water in front of their beach, will no longer be theirs, that it will be owned by the state, and therefore it's impacting their property. They bought beachfront property, and in essence, they don't have beachfront property anymore. I'm not making a case for it. I'm just trying to understand what their objection is.
The issue is that the sand placed in the water, based on state law, regardless if it's a federal project, when we did a local project, 350 miles plus in Florida projects, when you put sand in state waters, it becomes state sand. There's no way around that. Walton County has no dog in that fight, absolutely nothing.
No, I understand that, but I'm trying to understand what
all the upland sand is theirs.
Right.
The sand that was there before.
But again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm trying to understand what their issues,
Well,
namely
Art,
that.
you're asking a realtor question of two engineers. So you got two realtors on the board up there. I would ask them, is it still beachfront property, even if it abuts 50 feet of state sand? Because you know what? It's not beachfront property technically if it's at low tide, because the state owns that land, that dry sand out there at low tide.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's not a real estate issue so much as it is, I think the practical concern people have is if that sand is added in front of my beach and somebody can now come along and vend on it and sell beach chairs and so forth, that in effect.
Nobody can come vend on it. I don't know how clearly we can make
that's what I'm trying to
this.
understand.
Nobody can come vend on that beach without that property owner's permission.
Okay.
The state law doesn't allow it, and the county ordinances don't allow it.
All right, well, that's what I'm
Right.
trying to get
No
at.
professional vending services allowed.
Good, all right, thanks.
Pretty clear.
How do seawalls affect your project?
They're going to be buried. Everything will be done landward of them, seaward of them. So the dune, if they're covered now, they'll stay covered. It says very clearly in the construction easement that they're not going to be touched because whatever level of protection they're serving will continue to serve.
But
So-
in the event of a storm where you have breaks, as you just spoke of, does it negatively affect your project
Oh, it
because
will.
of those
Oh, yeah.
walls?
Yeah, seawalls negatively impact the beaches surrounding them, both in front and to the side. They
I'm
will.
assuming if you're that property owner, you can probably have some kind of civil suit or something, that your property with seawall damaged mine.
Right.
I'm going after you for damages,
Yeah.
but, I mean,
Can you speak up, please,
You'll have to speak in, you have to turn on your microphones and talk.
Push that little button up, push that little red button, yeah.
can you hear me now? No?
A little closer.
All I said was, I'm assuming, property-wise, if I was the neighbor that did not have a seawall, and, for example, Jim Richard had one, I could civilly sue him for damages to my property because of what his seawall caused my property. But it's no involvement of the county, state, or federal. That's just
Right.
between property owner and property owner.
All right. Anything else, Brad?
No,
I have
sir.
a question.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
go ahead.
Could you tell us the high-level timeline for this project?
Yes, ma'am. By the end of the year, we expect to have these easements at some point start hitting the street. Then from there, on our side of the house, we'll send out, the way it goes is certified letter. There'll be informational package. As I mentioned, we're going to be working with our marketing team and others to create what that package is, the informational package. That'll go out to the owners, and we'll have a deadline on it, 30, 45 days, asking for responses. We'll get some in, and then we'll go back out a second time, go back out a third time. Long story short, it's going to be, the state permit will be moving along the same time period. So as soon as that gets resolved, as soon as we get the construction easements resolved, and then the construction funding, it would not be prior to October of 2015. It could be any time after that. We're trying to get in position to be after that in the next federal fiscal year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Good question. Thank you, Brad. All right, Mr. Downs, we're going to take a 5-minute break. We're going to recess at 10:17, back at 10. All right, meeting is back in session. Mr. Downs.
Good morning. I'm Philip Downs with Curran Downs Research, and we're reporting 2 survey results today. One is the ADR survey for spring and summer. If we could move on to the next slide, please. So we have in the ADR survey over 3,700 units, so we feel very confident about the results of this being representative throughout the community. If we can move on to the next slide. So looking at the spring ADR results, you see the occupancy rate just over 50%, the length of stay, average travel party size of 4.6. The ADR was 322, but the RevPAR, given the average occupancy rate, was down at 173. And you'll see drastic difference as we go into the summer months. The average occupancy is up considerably from 53 up to 81%. The ADR is up from 322 to 370, almost 375, and the RevPAR shoots up considerably because of the occupancy rates. And we just started tracking these again, and we'll have tracking information going forward so you can compare these season to season, year to year.
That's good.
All right, we'll move on next to the potential visitors study. This was designed to basically bring more folks here. The intent of this study is to assess people's perceptions of South Walton. What is their awareness of it, their perceptions, why aren't they coming, and how can we get them here? So if we look at the next slide, throughout this, and that's hard for you to read, but basically when we ask people if they've heard of South Walton, the brand name, we get a completely different answer than if we ask if they're aware of the 16 beach communities plus the brand name plus 30A. So throughout this report, we make a distinction between South Walton, the brand name, and South Walton and its 16 beach communities. And you'll see how that impacts responses as we go through. And then looking at the methodology here, this study focused on the key origin markets for South Walton based on past results, past studies, and we had a total of 775 interviews that we did throughout these communities. We were looking at the key target that has been coming, 25 to 64, 75,000 plus household income, and folks who make decisions about vacations and folks who do travel and stay overnight. So looking at just the top level results here, when people are asked, hey, where would you like to go for a beach vacation in the Southeast? South Walton's not on the radar. Now, we're not showing them that brand name, South Walton. We're just saying, hey, where would you like to go in the Southeast? Or even where would you like to go in Florida for a beach vacation? And when it's presented in that fashion, the top of mind awareness is very low. But when we ask, have you heard of South Walton? We get about 35% of the folks who say, yes, they've heard of South Walton. And then when we add the beach areas in, then we're up around 79%. One of the good news pieces out of this study is that 3 out of 4 of the folks that we surveyed, the key target markets for South Walton, want to try something new. And they're looking for a place that seemingly fits us, a place that's pleasant to unwind, a place that offers value, scenic beauty, the sugar white beaches, and so on. So they're looking for what we have to offer. Unfortunately, their lack of awareness of what we have to offer ends up with their ratings of this destination being lower than their expectations. They expect on those dimensions a very high level. And they look at South Walton and primarily because of lack of awareness, rate South Walton lower on those dimensions. So we have an educational challenge in front of us. If we look at some of the results here, a lot of information on that, but that was basically asking people, where would you like to go for a beach vacation in the Southeast? And they're not prompted, they don't see anything, and you see all the way down on the bottom right side, Seaside at 1%, Seagrove, Watercolor, and then we move to the next slide. I'm sorry, let's go back to that first slide. So we see only 3 names come up out of South Walton. Top of mind. We see things like Florida, Destin. Yes?
The questions you asked, or the respondents are where were they at when you asked these questions? Where were they located?
They were back in their markets.
They were back in their markets.
In their home markets.
Okay.
Those 21 origin markets that are the key feeder markets.
Okay.
Absolutely. So you see, we're not really there. When it's like asking you, hey, where would you like to go to dinner if you went to Atlanta? You've got maybe 3 or 4 places in your head. And so South Walton and its beach destinations are not there yet in the heads of these people. If we move on, if we narrow the frame of the question, where would you like to go for a beach vacation in Florida? Then we start to see a little more reaction, but not much. On the bottom right side of that, we see Seaside, Sandestin. If we move on to the next slide, we see Watercolor, Seagrove, Santa Rosa, South Walton. So we're not really, again, popping up much when the frame of reference is Florida. But then when we actually say, hey, have you heard of South Walton? If we move on to the aided recall question, have you heard of Watercolor? Have you heard of Seaside? Then we start to see better reactions as we add South Walton, the brand name, to all of the 16 beach destinations. You see that at 79%, aided awareness of this destination is in line with Destin, in line with Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, still a little bit behind Panama City and Pensacola beaches. And then you see the aided recall of the 16 individual beach areas. South Walton is 35%. Sandestin and Miramar are above that, but then lots of the individual beach areas are below that. And we continue to see the individual beach areas show up here. Where have they vacationed? About 30% of the folks that we talk to, randomly selected out of these markets, have been down here at one of our beach areas or another. Most of them to only one. We can move on. The folks who haven't been down, why haven't they been down? It's primarily they just don't know about us. They lack information. The folks who are aware, how did they find out? Well, through families or friends or from actually personally visiting in this area. And if you look at this slide, where do they look for information when they're planning their vacations? This is just internet-centric. If you go all the way down to the bottom, you'll see travel agents pop in there. You see a little bit of traditional media pop in there, but most of it is social media, starting with the main search engines at the top. We asked people what's important to you when you're seeking a new vacation destination, and they gave us these ratings. And then I'm going to move to the next slide where they rate South Walton on those. But then the next slide shows those two results together in a gap analysis. So you see the importance that folks attach to various vacation attributes. And in the second column, you see how they rated South Walton on those attributes. And then you see if the difference is positive or negative. And the difference is negative for those first several attributes, which are the most critical attributes to folks who might come here. And as I mentioned previously, there's an educational challenge for us to show them that we're dynamite in terms of a place to unwind. We're dynamite in terms of scenic beauty. So where are they searching for information? Where did they notice information about us? Some advertising awareness, going to the Visit South Walton website, or going to one of the 16 beach websites. Those are the main ways that they notice us. Real issue here with geographic location. Where is South Walton located? Now here we're talking about the brand name. And you get 3 out of 10 of these folks who know where it is. Now, in another study, we asked, do you know the geographic location of South Walton and any one of its 16 beach communities? In that case, that number doubles to 60%. So they know about us, but they don't quite know us as South Walton. They're less likely to know us as South Walton. And then you go to the next slide. Well, there is the slide I was talking about. Didn't know that was in this presentation. So as we go, let's go back to the previous slide. So in this slide, we're asking, do you know where the brand name South Walton or any of its 16 beach communities is located? And that figure jumps up to 60%. Then we ask about the specific geographic location, and we gave them choices in this. So there might be a little positive response bias, but only 15% of the potential visitors know where the brand name South Walton is located. But if we go to the next slide, then we see that that doubles to 31% when we're talking about the brand name plus its 16 beach communities. So what is South Walton like? What's it similar to in the minds of these potential visitors? Well, it's Destin, or it's Panama City Beach. But we know that we're not Destin or Panama City Beach. And again, it's an educational challenge. It's a matter of getting information and changing perceptions. Expense is an issue, but it's not a significant issue. We're going to lose some folks to the value issue, but for the most part, this is not driving people away. Expense is not driving people away from this market. And then we asked those folks who did not plan to come down here, why not? And if you sum the don't knows, and I just don't know much about it, you're looking at about half the folks have no idea why they're not coming here because they don't know what we have to offer. 3 out of 4 say that they would they would drive down here. Next slide. But if you didn't intend to fly here, would you at least consider it? And 4 out of 10 said they would consider it. The 60% who would not consider flying down here said, well, it's too close, or it's too expensive, or I've got too much to bring down, or I have too many kids to bring down. Are they aware of our airports? Not so much. 1 out of 5 aware of the one airport. 1 out of 7 aware of the other airport. What are their perceptions of the types of people who come here? Well, they see this as a family destination. They see it for folks who have money, people who love the beach. But then you see a fairly big 14% who don't know. And then here are some quotes, and you can look at those at your leisure, but we're just giving us a little bit of fleshing out the types of folks that they see coming here. So if we can go on down to about 5 slides from that. So these folks are taking vacations. They're taking almost 4 vacations a year. And we've got 3 out of 4 who say that they're looking for a new vacation. So this is positive news. And the folks that we talked to, the typical household had 3 folks living there, and one of them being under 20. And the average age of the folks we talked to was 44. We talked to more females than males on purpose because females tend to make vacation decisions more so than males. And then the household income that we looked at, next slide please, $140,000 was the household income of the folks we were looking at. So any questions or comments about the results of these 2 studies?
Philip, what's a retiree sand family?
Sorry?
On one of your slides here, it says retiree sand families.
Without.
Oh, without family.
Sand.
Oh, it's supposed to, it's S-A-N-D. It says
Okay,
S-A-N-D.
sorry about that.
You got overridden by your spell check, I guess.
Okay.
Thought there was a new category of visitor to South Walton.
We might go with that, though.
A sand family.
Where is that?
On the bottom right, on the bottom left, rather, of the page that says wealthy of the middle class families are likely to vacation in South Walton.
Okay.
If you look down at the bottom left-hand corner, the third one says retiree sand families.
Oh, okay.
Any other comments or questions?
Yes, you mentioned earlier about how the challenge was how do we differentiate, or putting words in your mouth, but the sense of it was how do we promote South Walton? And I may have shared this story with you in the past, but let me do it again. A friend of mine went to one of the restaurants in Sandestin. I think it was Bijou Bistro, and sat down. Waiter came over and said, "Welcome to Destin." And she went berserk. She said, as a realtor, she said, I don't live in Sandestin, but I live in Walton County. This is not Destin, Florida. And I think that's kind of a monkey on our back is the Destin thing. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with Destin, but it confuses people who are outside this universe. They don't know what Destin is, and they think Destin is Sandestin. And so how do we do a better job of differentiating ourselves from Destin? I'm not trying to put them down in any way, but to promote the idea that we are South Walton and not Destin.
Well, my chief goal today is to present the research results rather than designing a marketing strategy. But I mean, it's a matter of getting everybody on the same page. I mean, even if what if waitresses or retail folks said, welcome to the Pearl in South Walton for your dinner or for your hotel stay, or every time you walked into an ice cream shop or a candy shop or a retail store, someone said, welcome to my store, whatever that name was, in South Walton. I mean, I come over to Rosemary 7 or 8 weeks a year. And every time I do a little informal research on my own, and I say, do you ever use the term South Walton? First of all, have you heard of it? And most of the folks have heard of it who are here. I said, do you ever use that term in your everyday speech? Oh, no. No, I come to Seaside, or I come to Sandestin, or I come to Rosemary. So it's a matter of, it's an internal education issue, getting folks here to use that term.
Well, Gary, in your case, do you at the Hilton, do you talk about South Walton or do you talk about Destin?
Both, if you want the truth. Our website, we do mention Destin a lot, and that just has to do with the number of hits and the, you know, what Destin has attracted over the years. I do my best to, when I write letters or I have to do comments, I mention the beaches of South Walton a lot in TripAdvisor and what's the other one? Oh gosh, Kayak, some of the, you know, blogs. So, and we are working on our staff also, you know, stating that we're along the South Walton, like at a concierge desk and such. But, you know, the other thing too is our even though our zip code is Miramar Beach, it says Destin and then 32550. Well, we're going to be, whether that's good or bad by force, I believe at the end of this year, we're going to have to identify ourselves either Miramar Beach or Sandestin. And I think in our case, we found that the word Sandestin is more known, if you will. So I know that's a mixed answer for you there, but.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Ms. Watkins.
Hello again. I would like to give you an update on the sales department. Since last we met, we have attended 2 meeting shows. Connect Marketplace, which focuses on the association market. We had partners go with us, Sandestin, Hilton, Seascape. Also our neighbors, Emerald Coast CVB and Pensacola, so it is a popular meeting show. It's appointment-based. Then we attended the Smart Meetings, which covers all facets of planners from corporate, association, and the Smurf market. They also have a publication, a Smart Meetings publication that we advertise in. In September, we had 2 journalists visit us. One is a writer for Connect, Collaborate, Rejuvenate. Those are meeting publications. And she came to the area to see what is there to do outside of a meeting. What is there to do for the attendees when they're not in meetings, and perhaps spouse programs. So she will go back and write an article. The other journalist was a freelance writer for IBS Design. And IBS Design is an online publishing company that publishes the Wedding Basics network of wedding websites to 18 states. And they get about 5 million visitors a year on that site. And her focus will be on a romantic honeymoon, romantic dining, and couples outdoor spa. So she will be writing about that. She had another assignment with a publication in Tuscaloosa. It's Kids Life magazine, and it's a readership of about 30,000. And this magazine is placed in pediatric dentist and doctor's office. And the focus of this story will be a romantic getaway to escape a date, so to escape from the kids. So she'll be writing a story about that on South Walton. In the next, what was that?
I said we know we like that.
Escape from the kids.
Yeah, escape from the kids. In the next couple weeks, these last 2 weeks of October, the sales department has a lot of things going on. We will be in Fort Worth for Wine, Women, and Shoes. If you're familiar with Wine, Women, and Shoes, they were here in February. Is that right, Kelly? At Sandestin, and I went to that event, and I thought, wow, that would be cool if we could partner with them and go out of market to our target cities. So we will be in Fort Worth. We'll be the only travel destination at Wine, Women, and Shoes. You want to go to that, Tim? You look interested?
Sure.
Okay.
Sign me up.
During that same time period, we will be up in Franklin, Tennessee for Franklin Wine Festival. So we're taking our show on the road up there. And then at the end of the month, we'll be back out in Texas for Travel and Adventure. So we are giving Texas a lot of love this month.
Good.
Moving on to the Visitor Center, the 4th quarter, July through September. We had 5,532 visitors to the center. And then the yearly total from October to September was 19,932 visitors. That was just 60 less than the year before. We sold a little over 15,000 branded merchandise in the center. That's a 53% increase from the year before, so they must really like our new logo gear. We also, from spring break to Labor Day, on about 3 or 4 different occasions, the visitor center team went out and delivered over 50,000 of these beachgoer guides to our bed tax collectors in the hopes that they would put these in their packets. This is the piece that talks about the turtles, leave no trace, no walking on the dunes. So this is a very important piece. So we delivered 50,000 of those. We also had 5,000 visitor guides to each of the airports this past year. So people coming in picked those up at the 2 airports. And last time I was up here, there were some questions about numbers for the visitor center and if we would consider kiosks. You remember that, Art?
I do.
Okay, so I dug up this historical document that dates back to 1993 and ends with this fiscal year. And as you can see, the numbers do fluctuate some, but then at the bottom, I've done some little notes there that kind of help you decipher this. When Hurricane Opal hit, when we were actually building the visitor center, and we had our office down at where Kathleen's Cottage is right now, so the 2 years that was being built, and then Hurricane Ivan, the oil spill, the 4-laning of 331. So you can see that the numbers, they fluctuate some, but not drastically. Do you have any questions on this document?
Thank you for doing that.
Pardon?
Yeah, what caused the increase? Because we see what caused the decrease.
Where are you at?
I'm looking at 25,000, 24,000 visitors, 97 through 2000.
It was really easy to get in those days. You could get in to the center from going south.
Center from going south.
2-lane road.
Yeah, it was a 2-lane.
The median.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those numbers were a lot higher right there.
So it diminished because people don't want to navigate that turn. And all
Yeah,
that.
and I think some of it has to do with signage too,
Okay.
because we used to be able to have a much bigger sign out there.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that with you on that historical document. Oh, and I think I had a slide up there about a couple new beach safety items that we have. We give these out in the visitor center to children and out on the beach. So we have our paddle ball set and our football. And the last thing is professional development. I think everybody would agree that professional development is the key to success for any organization. And I just want to say that Amanda Morgan, she's our lead information specialist. She just attended Destination Marketing Association International classes on the Visitor Center, where she learned information on volunteer programs, technology, and customer service. Also want to point out that Angela Vaughn with our marketing department and again Amanda Morgan in the Visitor Center are enrolled in the Leadership Walton program. I think we all can agree that's a great program. Last on my list is the annual meeting. If you haven't RSVP'd, please do so. We would love to have you there. It's on the 21st at the Hilton at 4:30. Yes, sir?
I have a question. First of all, thank you for doing the spreadsheet on the visitor count. I think it was prompted by my question, do we need another one or do we need kiosks or anything like that? I gather your recommendation is that we just keep it as is?
I'm not making a recommendation. I just wanted you to see those numbers. It's working fine, fine the way it is with the parking that we have.
Okay.
That's for you all to mull over.
So your recommendation is no recommendation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I got at one point, I noticed there is an increase over the last, from 2000, well, it's up to 18,000, 2004. When did they pave that? When did they 4-lane that?
It was March 18th, 2010.
2010?
The 4-lane.
Yeah, you can see the difference right there, which was a good point you made earlier. And y'all have done a good job of I guess people are starting to find it, because you're almost at 20,000 this last year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's steady.
Obviously, it's pretty steady. A note would be, I know we partnered up with, I don't know if it's partner up, but we did something with Howard Group. They had that kiosk right there by Cantina Laredo
We
and
did.
Tommy Bahama.
We
Did that?
did.
I don't know if we kept numbers, and I don't know if we did very well.
We did keep numbers. That was not a real successful venture. Most people wanted to know directions or bathroom.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, well, we didn't
so we
have-
pulled out of that.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pamela, can I?
Thanks, Ben.
I'm sorry. The 2014-15, that Beach Mama,
Mm-hmm.
does that direct where and what times? Because I can't see the small print here, but where and where and how we advertise?
Yeah, that's a John question.
Right, thanks.
Thank you.
John's the beach mama. Okay.
Yeah.
Alias. Mr. Bryan.
Good morning again. Beach operations update. Summer season's over. We have transitioned from a beach cleanup department to a beach maintenance department. Code enforcement efforts have gone down, or our requirements to be out there have gone down. So, starting with the construction, renovation, repair projects, Dothan Street access, neighborhood beach access in the Seagrove area. We started construction on it this week. We had pre-construction last week. It's about a 75 to 90-day project, and contractors will be using what they call a top-down method. They'll bring everything in from street side as opposed to having to get on the beach. There'll be a little bit of work on the beach, but not much. So that was on its way. Multi-use path connector, West 30A to Highway 98 project update. We had an on-site meeting on the end of August to realign the path. If you're familiar with the project, it had curved linear construction up there to get around some trees. State Park system really likes for us to be on the edge of their park, not coming through it, so they realigned it. We have some other issues up there. There's a gas junction, gas line junction, some power poles and all that. So it'll pretty much run the edge of the park around that corner, connect to the sidewalk, and connect to the existing path about a quarter mile down 38. Next one is multi-use path realignment, Western Lake Bridges project. That's the section of the bike path from Grayton Corners down to Watercolor. We'll be moving the path to the north side of the road. Be a series of timber bridges and metal bridges, similar to the ones we have on other lakes. It's a joint funded project. There's been a little bit longer permit and design review period for it, so it's got pushed out a little bit. We're looking at a bid process in late January. Possible construction in March 2015. Still a lot of work to be done on the design, permitting, and all that before we start construction. Regional beach access, neighborhood beach access maintenance projects. We're, like I say, we transitioned into a maintenance company now, so we're taking this off period to get all of our amenities back in order. One of them is standardization of all of our regional beach accesses. We painted them the first of this year to match. Now we're working on the interiors, getting all the fixtures and stuff the same, make it easier to maintain, keep all of our pieces and parts the same. Moving on, beach cleaning. There's the numbers. As you can see, mid-August when the summer season tapered off, our garbage collection tapered off. The next month in September we had a spike on Labor Day, and then it kind of eased off down to roughly 1,200 bags a week. Destination improvement projects, beach access signage consolidation. In partnering with the logo design, we're going to remove some of our smaller signs off the beach and at the top of the neighborhood beach accesses. We have a lot of redundant information. We felt necessary to make sure everybody understood our rules. This is our typical wayfaring sign that has everything on it, and that's what we're going to be moving to. The top portion of it where the logo is will be changed to our new logo. The rest of it will remain the same. Moving on down, code enforcement. When I got started, Jim tasked me with automating the code enforcement process. We've gone through a couple of different scenarios. The one we're on now is basically developing a database type system using our current forms, They'll virtualize it. Our guys can use it in their trucks and their computers, information in, and then it's searchable. It can be sorted, searched, compiled in many different ways. We can also take that information and import it into our GIS system to come up with graphic representation of quantity and what we're doing and where we're doing it to help us focus our efforts. This is our contact summary. As you can see, once again, middle of August, we sort of tapered off. I moved Haley into kind of administrative role to help with our wildlife lighting ordinance portion of the code enforcement. And then September contact, same thing. So that's it on beach operations, beach maintenance, and code enforcement. Any questions?
All good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate you, brother.
Good morning, Council. John Irvin. And it seems like I've been in front of you with a lot of action items over the last year. And today, no action items, just some updates. We're still working on most of those bigger pieces. But we did want to touch on a few things. You've seen the logo show up in a few places today. Here is just a slide, the most basic version on the left for the destination, which you would expect to see on perhaps a souvenir or something a consumer would like. And on the right is something that is purposefully presented as a sister, essentially, that would be for the organization. As many of you know, as through this process for a year, we knew that the consumers were not real interested in collecting DMO swag, but they are interested in collecting the destination swag. So we are working very hard on the brand standards guideline. It'll end up being about a 50-page document specifying infinitum. And at this point, we have some stuff here today, which arrived late yesterday. We are only considering this a little beta test in that we didn't coordinate what the logo was put on. We wanted to see what worked and what didn't work and what was too large and what was too small. But I'll pass a few of these things around so that you can see the real application. And so as we then select the best of the best approaches and refine our brand standards, we'll be able to start doing more of the deployments. So those are just a couple of examples. Here is another one that, again, not a bag that we're necessarily slating for production, but you can see the real impact of what it is. And I think the white hat that's coming around is a perfect example in that I think if you were on vacation, you'd bring that back. It feels like maybe you were at a resort or you were at some place that had an upscale. But again, talking about we wanted to see some of the things that didn't work. When you put full color on a dark object, obviously that won't be part of brand standards. We would probably use the reverse out white. So those are all the diligence that we're going through currently.
Of course it is.
So the annual meeting will really be where the public starts to see a little bit of this and our industry starts a little bit of this. And from there through the remainder of the year, the low-bearing fruit will be picked. But the reality is we're looking at even all the way out to March 1 as a legitimate deadline for some of the things like wayfaring signs that are from one end of the county to another. There will be a lot of effort. We have a punch list for all of it, but at the beginning we're being very careful to get it right before we really expand the distribution of things. The next slide that's up in front of you is the beach safety deck graphics, which you've all seen once or twice. We've spent a lot of time on this as well, getting a material that's as durable as possible. We've continued to upgrade and made some replacements. We will, at the annual meeting, which Pamela mentioned to you, was October 21st, have full-size live examples so that people can see them. And we will be encouraging anybody that is has a walkover of their own, if they'd like to get these stickers from us, we will assist them in deploying them, which has always been the goal. We continue to get very good feedback, especially from kids, because that messaging is really at their level. And then you all know the benefit of this is we are not changing any horizons or landscapes with yet another sign, which really doesn't work. And so this is something that we're going to try to get to the next level on, and we think that it'll definitely be something that requires ongoing maintenance, but that's really important.
So, John, you're saying you hopefully will have these at Sandestin and places like that where you...
Yes, anybody that has inquired, and we've had a few inquiries, thankfully, from, I think Sandestin was one of them, and we asked them for a little more time to make sure that we were giving them the best vinyl-backed product that would behave. And it's tough conditions. I mean, anything you put out in sand and sun and salt it is tough, but we think we've got it the best we can get it.
Particularly glass is the biggest issue that we deal with on the beaches.
Yep. And again, there's no magic. You can put out 50 signs and people will still speed. It's not a guarantee, but our goal is to have some disruptive messaging, and this suffices for that, we believe.
How many did you try out, John?
We've got every regional access has them, so that's 13 out of our 9 regional accesses that are out. So, and again, the first batch took a little bit of a beating, and the vendor that we've been using has been great. They literally have been in development from us because nobody else is doing this, but we think that we've finally got it whipped. So,
and it's vinyl?
It is a vinyl 3M product on the top and backed with foil, which has been part of the benefit, which it adheres to the grain, such as it is, and it provides a little bit more resistance to the traffic. They're still going to wear out, but again, even if one child understands what a double red is or a red flag is and is safer, then I think it's probably worth the effort. So.
John, will these adhere to Trex as well as to wood?
It's a commercial grade adhesive. Trex is the preference, but we've actually found that the wood in some of our early tests was easier because it had more grain, and so that the foil and the vinyl adopted that contour better. The Trex actually doesn't feel slippery, but it's a pretty finished product. It's pretty smooth, and so that gave us a little bit more trouble than we expected. Okay. But the order is in process, and so we will have supplies. As we do with a lot of other signs, we facilitate when people ask us for signs about the legends for the flags or don't walk on the dunes. So this will be in a similar program. Another update we wanted to just share with you is, we're working hard on the website. It's an enormous project. Miles Media, who received the bid, actually had 7 of their people from Colorado in town last week and 1 from Tampa for a little bit of a kickoff meeting. Spent some time. Pamela toured them in the market. Jim and I have a call with them tomorrow about billing cycles and procedural things. And so we're again, we want to go fast, but we're going to get this done right, and it is going to be a big job. So you're going to hear this update probably several more times, but as soon as we have something for you to see as far as a wireframe, we will be bringing that to you as well. You got to see some of the cool stuff that we're doing, the Dallas takeover. Obviously, we feel pretty smart at this point that we had that placed, and then followed by Southwest Airlines announcing direct flights from Love Field starting March 7th every Saturday, and we hope that those expand. You heard about Cattle Barons Ball, and I do want to say we're so blessed that we have this product that we've been given, but then the community, the donations that we've received to take to Cattle Barons Ball, which is a charity fundraiser, amazing. $7,200 paintings from Justin Gaffery and thousands of dollars worth of art and jewelry that this community has graciously given us to then convey what South Walton is like. So really exceptional.
They're going to auction those off at that ball?
Yes. They raised $4.25 million in one night last year. So some of us have experience with the Destin Charity Wine Auction, which was 2.1, which is a staggering number, but gives you a little perspective on what kind of consumers are there. Kelly and I just returned from the patrons function last Thursday night. We were over there, and it is our cream of the crop households that have a chance to engage with. PR update real quick. We are headed to New York November 20th. We hope to have several dozen media from high-powered publications there. We will be taking music and chef and artist with us. So again, it's another opportunity to definitely share the consumables of South Walton, and we're excited about that. 2 updates that we're not too excited about. We are going to miss Travis Curry and Christina Copeland are moving on to further adventures. There are 2 lifelong Walton County members of the team, so we thank them for everything that they've brought us, and we obviously wish them the best, and we know that they really won't be forgetting about us, but please share with me in thanking them for their work and mentioning their work. In front of you are 6 awards, 1 Flagler from the Governor's Conference a couple of weeks ago, and 5 FPRA awards, which in the state of Florida, which is truly one of the leaders on the planet from marketing communication, to have your local team bring home 5 awards is really wonderful. We had a good marketing committee meeting last week, and again, please know that you can stay in touch with us through the connections, which every week we're talking about these media opportunities and these seeking donations for these activations. And all of our monthly reports are put up on the .org site. So we do our very darndest to make sure that's available. And then you were asking about the Beach Mama.
Yeah, the mom. I just wanted to know, I can't read it in there, and I
Yes.
need to be more diligent by looking it up, but what you target your markets? Are they because obviously our markets change as the season, so is that identified on that?
I would say if you were looking for where we're putting messaging, the media plan itself would be even more illustrating, because of we indicate every state or market that publication is being placed or that digital is covering. And so that's really the one that I would say destination schedule you could follow. The Beach Mama is really the roadmap of the social messaging and then the content that's produced. So making sure that in a 12-month period we have some judicious focus on Grayton Beach just as much as Sandestin, and that we talk about family season in the appropriate months, and we talk about culinary, so that over 1,000 touch points you don't inadvertently sort of repeat or fall back to the same habits. And so that's really more of a content map versus a market map.
Okay, so again, about every quarter or so when our seasons change, the way we market and advertise would change, right? Like we're
Yes.
geared towards families during season and empty nesters. And
Absolutely. And the publications, the vast majority of the print ones, just as an example, we're very cautious in pairing our placements with editorial, so that if you're talking about family, we're placing an ad in that publication in the March. And then when it's romance season, we're finding editorial in Wine Enthusiast, and we're placing an ad along with that editorial calendar, or special section featuring Destination for Romance Travel. So almost all of our placements are not just because they're a good buy, it's because we've paired them with a season or a topical. And that's a lot of hours and a lot of time that goes into that. The agency gets all the credit in the world for that diligence, and that $1 million of additional added value. That's all part of that negotiation, which is we don't just want to buy an ad. We want to buy an ad in the best spot, and we want as many extras as possible, and we want to talk to the right audience.
And earlier you mentioned New York.
Yes.
Are the negotiations with JetBlue possibly being another airline?
I'll defer to Jim, and that was one of the things you saw from the budget standpoint, where some funding made available if such time as that there was opportunity to have some efforts. But the Southwest Airlines is the one that is official and announced, and that's where you're seeing us deploy some significant additional dollars. We feel very fortunate that worked out the way we expected, and so we're at the front of the line for those deployments.
And it's still to be announced in regards to another economical airline out of Houston, right?
Discussion at this point.
Discussion, but it's not been identified yet, right?
Yeah. Any other questions at this time? Thank you for letting me make an update.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Miss Jennifer.
Hello again.
You got more?
Just regular updates this time. On the slide, the first 2 bullet points are just doing some housekeeping work for the FY14 budget, correcting some coding corrections that went on through the year, and completing some budget transfers within the operating accounts to ensure that they all had positive balances towards the end of the year. The FY15 efforts were finalizing the FY15 budget, the recent public hearings, After OMB entered the budget, going in and making sure that all of our accounts had what we expected in them, preparing FY15 budget books for all of the TDC divisions. Within those, there's new forms that will make budgeting easier for next year, and they'll keep track. We're also making progress on the conference room upgrades, and the payroll automation was approved by the BCC at one of the recent meetings, and that'll be an automated and integrated with our regular financial software to allow for seamless conversion and not as much user and entry error. People clock in using their thumb, and we'll have a better justification of hours. We have an ongoing utilities and fuel analysis for our vehicles. The first utility analysis that we completed was Chelco, resulting in the $6,000 refund. Like I said, we have the meeting with Waste Management today. Something else that we're looking into for cost savings is researching more cost-effective alternatives for our copier lease system. We have a very high copier lease contract now, but it is set to expire in just a couple months. We completed HIPAA, PHI, benefits, team building, and communication training. We also completed with the county our payroll audit during September. And during September and October, we have Naviline training, which is our financial software system. And we're advertising for the new code enforcement and for the replacement for Christina and Travis soon. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, before Jennifer leaves, I'd just like to say I meet with Jennifer every week. We go over the bills, and I'm very impressed in the short time she's been here, how she's gotten her arms around all of the issues, the Chelco issue, the waste management thing, and several other smaller issues. And she's been most generous in her time in explaining to me what some of these bills are too. So, but you're doing a terrific job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Art. Thanks, Jennifer. Mr. Bagby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My updates are real simple. The governor's conference, the main thing that came out of the governor's conference, other than they expect 127 million visitors within the next 5 years, which would be a 27% increase, is that Visit Florida is working on a certified certified tourism ambassador, which we had been working on a plan to try to develop for folks in this destination. Not just bed tax collectors and their staff members, but also restaurants, cabs, whatever, so that we could have some kind of program that's standardized, because that gets to the South Walton. First, we have to train our own folks that they're in South Walton before they can train our visitors that they're in South Walton. And so Visit Florida is going to roll that program out, hopes to roll that program out around 1 December. Everybody in the TDC is going to include me. Will go through it. It's a computer-based model, so you sit there and you watch little vignettes, and then you get little questions, and you answer the questions, and you either get a "oops, you didn't get it right," or "you did get it right." We're looking internally at some kind of recognition certificate or a pin that people can wear on their shirts or whatever in South Walton that says, "I'm a certified tourism ambassador in South Walton." So we'll keep you updated on that. Top 25 working items, there's only a couple that I want to mention. We briefly mentioned the strategic plan. We're working on a RFQ to do the strategic plan. We hope to do that around next February 1st. We were a little behind the ball, a little behind the curve this past year, so that we can fully integrate that into our budgeting next year. The parking plan development, you may have noticed that we asked the county, and the Board of County Commissioners approved, looking at purchase of the Angelos property. We are going to ask them, at the direction of Commissioner Meadows, to look at purchasing, with us being a partner or funding, the lot we currently lease across from Gulf Place for additional parking for Ed Walleen. And I've talked with both the state park managers. The NERDA funding was approved yesterday. The record of decision was made. And in that, there is $588,000 for parking, bathrooms, except improvements at Deer Lake State Park. That's 30 to 50, maybe more. They haven't finalized the plans, but that'll be additional parking at Deer Lake State Park, which will hopefully get some of the folks off of 30A as they look for parking. The beach act, and that's the beach access update, actually kind of coincides with that. And then the TDC memberships, I just want to remind you that there are 5 memberships that expire in December. Commissioner Meadows, who's appointed by the Board of County Commissioners, Mr. Gilbert, who's appointed by the South Walton Fire District, and then Mr. Brillmeyer, Mr. Richard, and Ms. Avra. And if you intend to seek reappointment, remember there's term limits, 2 4-year terms maximum. If you see, if those 3 of you who are not appointed by elected bodies want to stay on, I wish you'd let us know, just so we can, when we advertise for the positions, we'll know that y'all are also seeking. But we will advertise probably in end of this month, beginning of November, for volunteers, and then take it to the Board of County Commissioners either at the end of November or the first meeting in December for their appointment of the 2015 Tourist Development Council Board. Subject to your questions, that's all I have.
Any other questions? Anybody? Jim, I just want to say your team has put together an excellent program today. And they have totally improved since, this year. So I just want to commend you and the team, the staff, for all that they're doing.
Well, they've done a great job, and they are doing a great job. It's more than just the bed tax numbers. But I also want to thank y'all, because the tone of this meeting and the last meeting compared to a year and a half ago is night and day. And so I just appreciate the guidance that y'all have given us. I appreciate the treasurer coming by every Friday and going through the books and going through the numbers. But the team has really worked hard this year, and they've really accomplished a lot. And we hope to point some of that out at the annual meeting on October 21st at 4:30 on the sunset deck of the Hilton. That's only the 3rd time you've heard it today. So you're all invited.
Well, my commending to the award winners here, too, and I want to give you all another hand.
Is that at the Hilton?
That's at the Hilton.
Yes.
Yeah, that is at the Hilton. All right.
4:30
On the 21st?
You got it.
One thing I will mention, the team is bringing in the experience booth inside the Hilton. Gary's allowed us to set it up. This is the booth that we normally deploy to other places, and so you will actually get to see, I know Jim has seen it in Chicago, I believe, but you will get to see what we actually take out and give people that South Walton experience.
You won't miss it. It's going to be right in the lobby. Yeah, it's a good thing.
All right, if there's nothing else, then we have a motion to adjourn. Oh, public, I'm sorry. Any comments from the public? Come on up, Lee.
I get up and speak at a lot of meetings in a lot of different capacities. And today I am, and I just decided to do this, I can't stop myself. I am speaking as a human being. I, for years at the beach, have seen, and I've talked about this in the beach, the Destination Improvement Committee meeting, and to Jim, but have seen the purple flag say dangerous marine life present, or dangerous marine life. And lately I'm seeing that change to marine pests. And it bothers me. I'm an animal lover, I'm a nature lover, and they are not the pests. They are in their habitat. So I don't know how much we can even control that. I don't know if it's state-driven or federally driven or what, but I just have to say it. I think dangerous marine life not only is more accurate, because it is, they are dangerous to us, and I think it gives a better accuracy of description, but it's also, words mean things, and I think it's important for us to maintain a positive relationship with nature. And I get a little emotional about it, but it is emotional for me. And also, on a less emotional side, we have talked a lot about ecotourism and pursuing that more. Well, that also is important to maintain a positive relationship. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Well noted. Appreciate it. Anyone else from the public like to speak? that note, do we have a motion?
So moved.
A motion to adjourn, second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned. 11:27. Thank you all. Great job. Ride a horse today. Hopefully about 15 I'm taking my way. Very excited.